Namaste everyone, good evening, and here we are back after Diwali break. I hope that all of you had a wonderful break during Diwali and had great celebrations of this festival of light. And here we are back again to listen to one more story of another interesting person, a creative person who is following her design program with NMIMS School of Design, and she has been a great explorer. So let's invite her and see what she has to share with you.
Hello.
Welcome, Asavari.
Hello. Thank you so much.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Great, great, great. I am also great. Thank you so much, Asavari. Okay, so Asavari, we would love to hear few things about you. Just tell us about all your like what you like and what are your hobbies and things like that. And then let us know that why you have chosen design program to pursue design program. Yeah.
Sure. First of all, I'm so glad to be here. This is a wonderful initiative that you've taken, and I'm very glad to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Asavari.
So, introducing myself. Hi, everyone. I am Asavi Deshpande. I am a third year student. I'm studying in NMIMS School of Design, Humanizing Technology. Um, sharing with you my interest. I'm very interested in the design research part of it, wherein you collect a lot of information, you go through a lot of interviews, ask users what are the problems they are going through. I also am very enthusiastic about the product sketching and form exploration, where you make prototypes, smaller blueprints of products. You shape, sculpt, sand. I love it. I love to get dirty in the workshop.
Yes, yes, I have seen that. Yes.
Yes. And apart from this, I am very enthusiastic about sky gazing. I'm a I love to explore the constellations. I love
That's
to explore the
interesting.
sky at night.
Great,
And
great.
I love gardening. I love taking care of plants, aesthetically arranging them and really looking at them grow from a seedling to a plant.
Wow, great, great, great. So Asavari, please tell us about that. What was it that led you to make this decision about pursuing design as your career?
Okay. So this journey started in 10th standard. Usually you get your aptitude tests, right?
Right,
So
right.
in my aptitude test, it was suggested architecture and other 2, 3 things. It was very evident that I was good at drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So fields associated with drawing were the primary focus.
Right.
So after a lot of research, I understood this architecture, wherein
Mm.
you have beautifully sketch beautiful buildings and interior design. There's also design in terms of product design, graphic design, UI, UX, and interaction design. But at that time, I wasn't sure which one to. In terms of architecture, I wasn't very fond of looking at structures in that way, appreciating structures in that sense. So architecture was at the second priority, and then
Okay.
looking at design in terms of product design, experience, etc. Initially, I wasn't very firm on which one to choose, because I never really know what would I love to do for the entire life. Either either make some physical products, or like product design, or go for interfaces for interface design, or design some experiences or services for people. So
Right, right.
yeah, so that's when I decided to be with design, but really not with specialization. And this course really allowed me to explore myself, understand my strengths, and then choose which specialization inside design. So that's how
Right.
the journey went.
Okay. Okay. So what I can see, Asavari, here is that your nature of exploring things and sketching, you obviously mentioned, which made you incline towards design program. But apart from that, also, as you had mentioned, that you really love to explore forms, and also you mentioned that in gardening also you like to make arrangements of those plants, aesthetically. So was that one of the reasons, those kind of explorative nature, that you wanted to pursue design to have, more opportunity of exploring things even during your profession? Yeah.
Yes, that was one of the criteria. It wasn't very
Okay.
evident at the start, but
Okay.
yeah. So as I went through the course, it really it grew. The explorative nature really got a great boost, and
Okay.
that's how I went. So initially, it
Okay.
wasn't very evident.
Okay, great. So now that you are already in year three, right? And you must have done few design projects. So we would love to know that how was your process of learning the design process for the first time? So was it easy, or was it something, initially maybe like you thought that, oh my God, this looks difficult, or something like that? Whatever was your experience, we would just love to hear from you.
Sure. Um, Actually, in the second year, that's when I took up a entire wholesome project where I
Mhm.
implemented the design process from start to end, like from the research to
Right,
making the actual product.
right.
So initially, the design process, I think it was very confining,
Mhm.
because in 12th, or rather in school system, we were like made to follow some criteria and some rules. So our
Right,
creativity wasn't really enhanced. So
right,
after school,
right,
I
right.
got really very wild with creativity. I wanted to express myself, but
Okay.
in that process, I kind of started derailing in the projects, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when design process really acted as a guiding uh, personality for my project. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
it as Google Maps, and
Mm-hmm.
the design process is Google Maps, and reaching your destination is your project.
Mm-hmm.
So Google Map doesn't really allow you to explore the area, but help you reach your destination perfectly. So
Right,
yes,
right.
initially it was confining. I thought it was very much limiting the scope of my project.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I got used to it, I understood it is actually channelizing my creativity and helping me reach my goal.
Wow, wow. That's a different experience that you shared, that you thought that it was restricting your creativity initially, which actually happens because we think, as you mentioned, that till 12th the education system is
Right.
such that you hardly get any opportunity to explore things, to try many things. So it's just that this is the question and that's the answer, and you have to write it that way. Otherwise, you won't actually get those grades which you really want.
That's true.
So yes, and when you get the free hand and you want to explore so many things, but then you have to confine to that process, that follow this step after that, next this. And it's not only about creative thinking. The process is an holistic approach actually.
Yes.
So it's about making whatever you think, uh, whatever your ideas are, whatever is in your imagination, you're visualizing it, how to put that into a real life is what the process all about. And
Right.
as you said, that sometimes you may feel that confined, but then as you kept practicing it, I would love to know that how was your that realization about the design process, like as you kept using it again and again in your other projects. So how did that initial notion change then?
Okay. Now it's got innate to me. Earlier it was
Mhm.
I was imposing it on myself
Mhm.
to go with these. These are the steps. make sure you complete them, and then you go to the next step.
Right.
But now it's innate. The way I think, not only just for my project, but any decision I take in life or any problem I am trying to resolve, that's the way I think.
Wow. Wow, wow. In fact, that was one of the questions I was about to ask you, Asavari, is that, it happens. Like most of the designers I've seen or people who are in creative field, they get habitual to use this kind of creative thinking, also step-by-step approach to that solution, whatever they are working towards that solution, that you go step by step, and there's a lot of back and forth in between, but then as you said that you get habitual and you know that when is the time that I should go back and proceed further, that you just get to know that, and then that becomes your way of thinking, and it starts impacting your other aspects also. As you mentioned that design, like any kind of decision making, you try and follow the similar steps. So I would love to hear from you a few experiences where you think that you are using that design process in not only your academic projects, but other parts of your life as well.
Okay. Let me give you a very simple example. You might experience this in every home. So my mother usually asks me, "What do I cook tonight?" And I tell her, like, I go in steps, and then I present my solution to that. So suppose so first comes the research. No, you have to research that whatever things you have. So I look in the fridge, I look at which vegetables do I have. Do I have potatoes, some chilies, tomatoes, paneer, etc. And then the research, after research is the interview. So I asked my mother that how should the dish be, consuming 2 hours, or you want it super quick, like right now, instant dish. And then not just my mother, but also other people in the family, that what are their likes. Would they like potato sabzi or would they like paneer tonight? So after this, after gathering
So
these
you
data points,
taking care of all the people who are actually involved in the process of having that food. Yes, yes, yes. Great.
after knowing all these things, then comes the exact problem statement, which is, okay, I need a dish which is instant but is very tasty and suits everyone's taste. Then
Right,
the
right.
solution can be according to the everyone's tastes and the vegetables available. Would I like a potato sabji or would I like a paneer gravy? What do you? So that's how I actually go through this design process in every smallest things in life.
Wow, wow. So nice to hear. So now my next question is quite related to this, Asavari, is that how do you think the overall design process, like learning this particular, we can also call it as you mentioned here, that you are applying it to all different situations, like very simple, which are our day-to-day life situations. So how is it impacting your life or your personality overall? Like, how do you see Asavari being transformed from how Asavari was before joining the design program, and now after, when she has been practicing this creative problem solving process, as we call it? So after that, how have you transformed?
Okay, so the impact what is it has created is, um, I've got a lot of observant. I
Mm-hmm.
notice smaller details, and the experiences I have in the projects is actually reflected. Like,
Okay.
if there's some instance of, say, futuristic vehicle, then I look for examples around me which can inspire that thought.
Okay.
Or look at different, if I look at a product or the way it's sculpted, I would think that,
Mhm.
okay, how would that been, how would the process have been, what must be the intent, etc. So
Right,
that is
right.
um I
So
started
not only observing, like you have become a keen observant, but also a keen thinker,
yes,
trying to think about what must have gone behind that particular output, like trying to understand the process, how it must
yes,
have been there. Wow,
yes,
wow.
absolutely.
Great.
Like backtracking the
Mm,
process.
mm, mm,
That
mm.
is
Great.
one.
Mhm,
And now I have started breaking down the problem
mhm,
I'm facing, and getting less cloudy in my brain. So initially I used to get bogged down after I was faced with a problem. But
mhm,
now I break it
mhm,
down into pieces. I
mhm,
list those points which are supposed to be solved priority wise or etc. However
mhm.
you want to break. Um,
Right.
and apart from that, now I'm okay with ambiguity. In design process, the design process is absolutely ambiguous. You don't,
Ambiguous. Correct.
you
Correct.
don't know where you're going to end, but and you don't know how the project is going to go about. So
Right.
initially, I wasn't okay with this fact in the work I was doing,
Mhm.
but now I am, and actually I enjoy it. I enjoy it being ambiguous, and I like the project guiding me instead of me guiding the project.
Wow.
So
Great, 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 great. Great.
so that is
That's a yeah, different way of looking at it. That you are not in control, yet you are enjoying it and still doing it. And finally, of course, you are the one who is owning, who is doing all the thinking. Yet you feel that it's not about you, it's about that, because that thought is in the mind that it is for people that you are doing, and all the efforts that you're putting it is not for you but for people, for the positive change that you want to bring as a result. Wow, that's a great thought, Asavari. That wants me to ask you, that what were those initial struggles or challenges that you face during the different phases of design process, because this process has different stages. Like, we first, as you mentioned, that we do research, and then we define the
right.
statement, and then we go about ideation, conceptualization, make few prototypes, test and validate, and then implement. So a lot of things that we keep on doing. So, as you mentioned earlier, that it was not easy, or there's this ambiguity. So it was sometimes it was little frustrating. So, what were those different challenges? If you could talk about stage wise, whatever, I mean, in whichever stage that you faced, and then how did you overcome those challenges?
Okay. So there were challenges in kind of every stage in so I'll go like stage wise.
Yes,
First is the research.
right.
So I'm not an extensive reader, but research phase actually taught me how to actively read and document
Okay.
all the data I'm reading, because
Wow.
as you know, all this data I am reading is going
Hmm.
to help me in the latter stages of the process.
True, true, true.
So I learned documenting all the facts and data very accurately. Other than that, I learned how to so interviewing people was a very you know tough thing, especially when you're working with sensitive topic
Mm-hmm.
projects. Like
Mm-hmm.
once I was working, there was a design research project about sex education, and we had to interview people. But as you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very sensitive topic, and people are it's a taboo.
Right,
So people are not
right.
very open about it.
True.
People take it as disrespect and
Yes.
give you politically correct answers. So tackling that situation, framing the questions in a way that people don't feel offended, guiding the way people answer. That's how I overcome that part. Then
Okay.
comes the analysis phase, which I absolutely love. I
Okay.
love to go in detail and really understand what is the thing causing this problem, or where is this problem originating.
Right.
But the challenge is how much depth to go in,
Right.
and how much time I have and how much things to gather. So that is one decision I had to make.
Chan. Right,
And as
right.
it requires a lot of time and a lot of thinking, a lot of brain energy. So
Yeah.
that was a tough
It's quite
decision to.
exhaustive. It
Yes,
doesn't look like, but actually when you start doing it, it is quite exhaustive.
yes,
Yes.
that's true.
Yeah.
Then after the analysis comes the problem statement. So
Mhm.
the problem you're solving should actually be a problem, and you shouldn't be assuming that it's a problem. So
Mhm.
you know, so for using all the research to back up the problem, this was a
Mhm.
very important thing I learned
Mhm.
in that stage.
Mhm.
Now after the problem comes the ideation, and that's where things, I mean, that's where I face the very, very common challenge, which is the creative block.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
so you're expected to be, absolutely creatively thinking, come out with out of the box ideas, but
Mhm.
sometimes the brain says, okay, enough already. So so
Okay.
there are different tools I use, like
Right.
random entry,
Mm.
mind mapping,
Mm.
brainstorming,
Mm.
etc., to
Mm.
come out of that stage. The
Right.
best thing what for me is, taking an absolute break from the project and
Mm.
completely focusing on something else.
Right.
And that helped me to
Yeah.
get in different perspectives and,
Right. Right. True.
yeah, different ideas, and not keep iterating the same on the same concept. So that was
Right. Right. So bringing
that.
that variation is a challenge in
Yes.
your thinking. Like it happens that you get stuck to whatever idea that is coming to your mind, and then however you try, it is just the variation of that particular whole idea. And as you said, that taking a break totally from it and then giving some rest to your mind from thinking about that particular situation or that particular problem. And then suddenly, as you said, that once you take that break and start working again, then you see that like a lot of different perspectives and different ideas start coming to your mind. Very true.
Yes.
Very true. Yes. Yes. And
That was the thing.
okay.
And
Okay. Great.
next comes the prototyping. So
Prototyping.
yes, so that's where things become to, um, get real. You
Mhm.
face practical difficulties, like
Right.
how is the
Right. So
user going to
from
actually
thinking
use it?
to doing, it's the transition. Yeah.
Yes. So, a lot of complications, like adding a lot of details, fineness. How is the user going to use it? How will the user know how to use the product just by looking at it at a glance?
Making it
So,
intuitive.
yes,
Correct. Correct.
intuitive,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So
Mm-hmm.
that is a challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of iteration and a lot of, going back and forth in the process to
How
master
was
this skill.
that for you going back and forth? Because in my experience as a educator, I have experienced that not everyone is comfortable with this particular thing. Because as again, till 12th, the kind of education system that we go through, we hardly have any scope for these kind of iterations, trial and errors. So sometimes we like I've seen children becoming very frustrating and impatient and feeling to quit, that I have already tried it and how many times when again I have to do the same thing again and again. So how was it for you?
So initially, I was not frustrated as such, but
Hmm.
I I was going on the same track again and again.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay.
yeah, so I wasn't coming up with parallel or completely radical ideas.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that was initially that's what I faced, but
Okay.
then gradually I understood that that is the way to go ahead. I can't just
Hmm.
go ahead linearly.
Hmm.
So
Right. Right. Right.
right, so to actually go ahead, to actually think of different great original ideas, I need to go back
Go
and I
back.
need to think differently than I thought it before. So that was
Right.
my experience
Great
with going back and
realization. Great. 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 And about testing and validating, would you have something to share about that phase? Like after making the prototype, have you was the experience of that stage?
Yes. So after prototyping, as you know, comes the testing. And in the testing, finding the right users is a task.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to evaluate every user and look at user's background and etc. For him to fit in the criteria.
Right.
And often it happens that users are not focused. They detour from our, the path we have thought of, and sometimes there's some technical difficulties, so you need a backup of the backup
Correct.
to save
Correct.
that situation.
Yes.
So yeah, these
Yeah.
are the difficulties, and as I said, absolute preparation for and thinking of different ways this can go wrong, and preparing for
Mhm.
those scenarios is the key here.
Right, 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 right. Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Asavari, for having that, very detailed analysis of each step and, what is required and how, what were the challenges that you faced and how you overcome it. I think it has been a great perspective for all our viewers about, those whoever are not even conversant with design process or design thinking. I'm sure with the kind of analysis that you presented, they've got a little idea about it, little more clarity about what the design thinking process is all about. And also the way you mentioned about, the analogy of your cooking experience that you shared. Most of the users, they'll now able to relate it that it's not a very technical or a complex kind of a process that can only be used for, design activities, but it is very well applicable to any other criterias or any other situations that we face in our day-to-day lives. So that's what, I really believe that it is so that this process, creative problem solving process, is can be applied to any domain or any kind of complexity of project it can handle as we go step by step. So I believe that this needs to be taken to young children as well. The early they get exposed to or introduced to this particular process and they start using it, they'll be able to get acquainted with it and will be able to practice it more as they grow, and it'll help them to become that as their way of thinking. So I would like to know from you that because you've experienced this, that till 12th grade there was hardly any exposure in this term, and then there was a little struggle, but initially, but as you kept using it, you felt like that kind of difference in your own thinking process and how it is helping you to make better decisions and have that clarity. So, what is your opinion on taking this to young children, like as young as high school children? What do you think? How would it be? Maybe you can relate it, like if you would have exposed to this particular design process at that age, how would it have helped you?
Right, I think it's a great idea to do this. I wish I was exposed to this process when I was that
Hmm,
of
yeah.
that age.
Hmm, hmm,
I think it would have made me a better decision maker,
mhm,
in the sense to understand who and what the opposite person is,
hmm,
and
hmm.
delivering according to that. Just not for
Right,
projects, but also in life.
right.
Like just a quick small example of writing mails.
Mm-hmm.
So when you write mails to your faculty, and if that faculty is, doesn't have a lot of time, is pretty much strict, so you be at the point, you thank the faculty, show gratitude, and then you say it, okay, this is what I want, and that's it.
Hmm,
Even writing in mails or presenting the solution of in presentations,
hmm,
who
hmm.
is the opposite person who's going to judge you, what is his background, his situation, how
Hmm.
does he think, and then how do you present. So in
Wow.
these simple things, that's
Hmm.
how your decision making improves.
Right, right.
Apart from that, I think it would develop their personality and develop their own way of looking at the world and their own self.
Right, right.
Usually, I mean, at least this happened with me, that I just
Mm-hmm.
blindly copied my parents and copied the decisions they took and not really gave it a thought. But
Mm,
now I'm started questioning and doing it my way.
mm, mm,
I've developed
mm.
that thinking.
Right,
So
right.
I think with this skill, kids will start recognizing their own strengths, would
Right,
start
right,
recognizing them in a mob, and then act
right.
accordingly.
Correct, correct. Very true. Because, with my son who is now in grade 10, I can relate this so much with people of his age that, now there are people like they get these questions from most of the people that, okay, now you're in 10th and now you will be, soon 12th, and then you need to decide what you want to follow as your career. And then some of them, not many of them have clarity about it. They are like, whatever their friends are doing, or maybe whatever their parents will guide them, they'll take that decision accordingly, wherein they are not, many of them are quite exposed to with the kind of internet and with the kind of information overload these days that they have. They know many opportunities that there exist, but yet they probably are not very clear about their own self, as you mentioned,
Yes,
that they're not sure whether they would like this or that, and they haven't even tried it.
yes,
Also, as you mentioned, that the ability to take their own decisions, there are very few opportunities that children get at this age to take their own decisions. They're always supported by adults,
right,
maybe teachers or their parents. So as you mentioned, that it will make them more able decision makers and thinkers also. Like they'll get that clarity when they start thinking about themselves, about surroundings, about people. Yeah, very true, very true. So thank you so much, Asavari, for such wonderful thoughts that you shared with us, for your time. And we would love to have one last, like if you want to share something as a last piece of message to the viewers or anything, we can end the session with that note.
sure. I think the skill of creative problem solving and uh, looking at the world in your own way, and understanding your interest and driving your own vehicle of life.
Mm-hmm.
So that is so important, and this skill absolutely helps you for that. So I would really urge kids to just go about it. Not just they'll understand career wise or course wise, like if they want to go ahead with the design,
Mm-hmm.
it will also help them for the life. And it's a
Right.
different way of thinking, it's a
Thinking.
different way of going about.
Right.
So yes,
Right.
do
Right.
go ahead with it. It's absolutely amazing.
Great. Great, great, great. Thank you so much for that wonderful message, Asavari. And we all wish you very best for your career and whatever projects that you take ahead in your life. And once again, thank you for joining, and bye bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.